Hi, students. Yesterday, we worked on chapter 11 and 12. Most of you did very poorly on the chapter 11 comprehension check, so I hope you actually go back and reread when you get time. Hopefully, you finished reading chapter 12 last night because you do have some comprehension checks questions that you had to do for homework. Let's move on very quickly. These are the chapter 11 comprehension check questions. Do now question from yesterday. The stop and jack questions that you had to do for chapter 12. I'm going to quickly go over the answers for those questions. And please, you can pause the video at any time to jot the answers down, to check your answers, compare them, so on and so forth. And make sure you annotate your text for where each question where the support can be found. So the first question, it says, why do you think the author keeps mentioning or even included Gabriel in the story? My answer, it says Lois Lowry mentions and includes Gabriel because Jonas and Gabriel have a significant similarity, and that is the eye color. I'm not going to give too much away, but Gabriel will definitely become a bigger part of the story. The next question, after reading page 89, it says, how does Lois Lowry create tension in the story? Lowry creates tension by explaining that the other 12s are excited and sharing their stories about their assignment training, but Jonas cannot divulge any information about his training. The reader can infer that Jonas wants to share or wishes he could share because the text states, Jonas listened. He was very aware of his own admonition not to discuss his training, but it would have been impossible anyway. There was no way to describe his basically the memories that he was getting because they didn't have any understanding of the memories, which basically means he was ordered or told he could not share, but he probably wants to, especially with his friends. You know how you are when you get around your friends, you like to share stories and swap information. The next question that you had after page 90 and the top of 91, it says, what happens to Jonas again and why is this important? Jonas's capacity to see beyond occurred again. The same thing that happened with the apple has happened again with Fiona's hair. It changed. And basically, its color. The text states he ran through it in his mind. It was clearly beginning to happen more often. First, the apple a few weeks before. The next time it had been the faces in the audience at the auditorium just 2 days ago. Now today, Fiona's hair. So he's actually beginning to see color, which is a very different from most of the people in the community because everything is colorless. After reading page 93, you had this question. Explain how memory recall happens for Jonas and for the other community members. Once the giver transmits the memory to Jonas, it belongs to him, and he can call it back at any time. Jonas has the ability to recall memories that are transmitted to him, but the community members only have one generational memories. Just like, for example, you are 12 or 13 right now. You may remember things that happened a few years ago, but I doubt it very seriously if you remember anything from when you were born or your very, very early childhood years. You may remember different things in spurts, and something may happen in your life that kind of like forces you or brings back a memory or causes some type of nostalgia to help you kind of get that feeling back again, or maybe feel something familiar to a memory, but it's very hard for you to clearly recall the entire event of what happened in your early childhood years. The question after reading page 94, it says, why is the giver's explanation of skin color significant to the theme of sameness? My answer, I have the giver's explanation of skin color is significant because the community has gone to sameness. Not only because they want to eliminate differences, they probably also wanted to eliminate problems such as racism, prejudice, etc. Um, so this is definitely a very important part of the book, even though it's not very long. In the text, it says, and the faces of the people, this is Jonas asking the question. The ones I saw at the ceremony, the giver shook his head. No flesh isn't red, but it has red tones in it. There was a time, actually, you'll see this in the memories later, when flesh was many different colors. That was before we went to sameness. Today, flesh is all the same, and what you saw was the red tones, basically in the flesh. So it doesn't matter, even if you're an African American, everything basically has some red in it. If you know anything about the color wheel and stuff like that, when you mix things up with red, it changes colors, or it becomes a different tone. I mean, even though we are African Americans, a lot of us have red undertones. After reading page 96, you had this question. Laura provides the first true glimpse into Jonas's character change. Find the evidence that reveals that change. And this is the one question on your homework that I will really look for to see if you could come up with the right answer. The text basically says Jonas wasn't interested just then in wisdom. It was the colors that fascinated him. Why can't everyone see them? Why did colors disappear? The giver shrugs. Our people made that choice, the choice to go to sameness. Before my time, before the previous time, back and back and back. We relinquished color when we relinquished sunshine and did away with differences. He thought for a moment. We gained control of many things, but we had to let go of others. We shouldn't have, Jonas said fiercely. The giver looked startled at the certainty of Jonas's reaction. Then he smiled wryly. You've come very quickly. So this evidence right here is basically showing that Jonas is beginning to kind of disagree with the community that he has known all his life. Because he's getting these memories, and the giver is sharing things that are all new experiences to him. He feels like everybody should be able to experience those things, and it's kind of like unfair that they took those things away from the community, especially if they're enjoyable. So going back to what we have to focus on today for chapter 13, which is foreshadowing. The definition of foreshadowing is the use of hints or clues for events that will occur later in a story or a plot. So during your reading today for chapter 13, well, I'm sorry, not for chapter 13, that will actually be for homework tonight. Right now during class, we're going to go back and reread some or skim some of the previous chapters. So look for these foreshadowing examples. Lois Lowry has used a lot of foreshadowing throughout the novel, but really the only way you can figure out that the author has used foreshadowing is to continue reading, then go back and look for the hints and clues. For example, in chapter 1, page 1, this is how the book starts. It says it was almost December and Jonas was beginning to be frightened. No, wrong word, Jonas thought. Frightened meant that deep, sickening feeling of something terrible about to happen. Frightening was the way he had felt a year ago when, and then they go on to talk about the plane. But this is the very beginning of the book, and the author is already kind of like setting you up for this ceremony of 12, which happens in December. What's going to happen in December? Jonas is going to get his assignment. What assignment is he going to get? The biggest and most important assignment in the community, which is the receiver of memory. So right from the start, Lois Lowry is setting up the scene for the upcoming ceremony of 12, which happens in December. And she's expressing to you and revealing to you Jonas's feelings about that ceremony. Another example comes from chapter 1 again, page 3. It says, Jonas grinned, remembering the morning that Asher had dashed into the classroom, late as usual, arriving breathlessly in the middle of the chanting of the morning anthem. When the class took their seats at the conclusion of the patriotic hymn, Asher remained standing to make his public apology as was required. I apologize for inconveniencing my learning community. Asher ran through the standard apology phrase rapidly, still catching his breath. The instructor and class waited patiently for his explanation. The students had all been grinning because they had listened to Asher's explanation so many times before. This kind of gave us a glimpse into the type of character Asher was going to be, and especially the type of character that the chief elder described during the ceremony of 12. So now it's your turn. Go back and skim through chapters 1 through 4 and find other foreshadowing examples. I need you to write the text verbatim. That means word for word. Explain what is foreshadowing, what it foreshadows later